Orphan Train, though, is the first novel I've written that involved a lot of historical research. And it's also the first novel that emerged out of a family story that I stumbled on and opened up a whole part of America that I never knew anything about. About a decade ago, I was visiting my husband's family in North Dakota, and there was a snowstorm, and we were with our 3 boys, and we were trapped inside, and we had nothing to do. And my mother-in-law pulled a dusty book off a shelf that happened to be the centennial celebration of Jamestown, North Dakota. And in it was an article about her father, my husband's grandfather, they called it Orphan Train, and it provided a home for many children on the prairie. She'd never spoken about this. He had never really spoken about this, but the article was filled with stories of children from this small town in North Dakota who'd ended up there from the East Coast, from New York mostly. I was fascinated by this. I'd never heard of it, and I'd never read about it. I'd studied history in college and didn't know anything about it, so I started to research it. And I discovered that more than 200,000 children were sent on these trains over a 75-year period between 1854 and 1929. And they were between the ages of 2 and 14, and they had no rights, and they were plucked off the platforms and taken by whoever wanted them to be given homes, or more accurately, most of them were what's called indentured. So it was a really interesting thing to discover. I also learned that there were 10 to 30,000 children living on the streets of New York at any given time in those 75 years. There were no social programs, there were no child labor laws, there were no protections. So it fascinated me.